各位同学早上好，今天是一个非常早的早上，今天是 workshop 的第3场，那我们是由我们的拉曼大学的刘少宇院长会帮我们讲第3场的 workshop，那今天的 workshop 也会 recording 起来。那么就由院长开始了。
好，谢谢世谋啊，各位同学、老师，还有校会的同仁们，大家早上好我是刘少宇。那今天呢，我会说一说，就是关于怎么怎么去把你的一些想法，把它变成一个问题，然后呢，怎么写一个计划书，就是 proposal，来提出一个提案。那我现在分享一下我的那个 slide，等一下我看看。少，等一下我找一
哦，
找我的那个
没问题。
档案在哪里。可以看到吗？
一没
还没有。OK，奇怪，
下啊
学上去了，再试一下，
，OK，
可以吗？
诶，
看到我的 slide 吗？
我这里是看不到，其他人呢？
咦，奇怪，我已经 share 了，
哎，可以哦，你好，那应该是
可以吗？
同学讲可以
哦，可以啊。啊，
，OK，
那这场讲座呢，主要我不知道各位同学是希望我用英文还是用中文来讲，我
呃
都可以啦。只是说，我不知道有没有其他同学，其实中文没有那么好，就可能，不，就我只要用中文讲，可能就啊、
院长你用英文讲好了，
好，那我用英文讲好了。好，可以看到我的 slide 哦，我自己看不到了。OK，好。So, good morning to everyone. So, my name is Liew and I'm from the Faculty of Information and Communication Technologies, University of Praman. Thank you for attending today's workshop. So, in this workshop, I'll share some of my thoughts about how to write an effective proposal. Essentially, the proposal should be written to solve a problem, right? Then formulating an correct problems is also very important as part of the proposal writing, right? So these are the objectives of today's workshop. So I will briefly go through what a proposal is and why we need to write a proposal. Then I will talk about how to turn some of your real-life problems into workable project ideas. And perhaps, I mean, the students, you can try to practice when we talk about this SMART objective. And basically, the ultimate objective actually is to learn how to structure a simple proposal for any projects or some activities, right? If you have any questions, you can just raise your hand or you just turn on your mute your mic, and then you can ask any questions. Just stop me so that we can have a more interactive action sessions. Okay, why okay, what is a proposal? A proposal actually is a persuasive document, meaning that when we write a proposal, we try to persuade somebody for something, right? So it outlines a problem and propose a solution, right? So why we have a problem and who need these solutions and how we solve the problems, right? So people normally write the proposals to secure funding, approval, and support. So it is to bridge your ideas into tangible outcome in a project, right? So for instance, all right, at schools, you may need to come up with some campaign or other things, right? In order for you to work on this campaign or work on these projects, you may need to get approval from the authorities, so that you can start the projects, right? Then you need to write a proposal. Or at our level, so for instance, at the research and development levels, normally we write proposals in order to bid for grant, right? So in order to work on some things that we are interested in order to explore and also come up with more findings about some interesting topics, right? So, but in order to do all these, we need to secure resources and funding, right? So that's why we need to write a proposal to the funding agency in order to get the funding to work on the projects, right? Sometimes you may also participate in some of the competitions, right? So in order to showcase your proposal, problem-solving skills, then there is also a need for writing a proposal, right? So all these are the possible scenarios whereby you need a proposal. So that's why actually writing a good proposal is an essential skills, right? Especially when you come to the academic line, or you join a company, right? Sooner or later, you'll be involved in participating in some of the projects. You may be involved in writing a proposal, right? So that's why this is very essential skills, and it's better for you to start to pick up these skills as early as possible. Okay, generally for a proposal, right? You need to have a plan. Remember that when we say that, okay, the proposal actually is the aim is to solve some problem and provide some solutions to some problems. So problem is very important, right? Later I will explain more about the problem, right? So you need to have a plan, right? So you have a problem, you want to solve the problem, then you need to write a plan in order to solve the problem, right? So, and what you need to do, right? So you need to define the scope, because the scope will determine the challenges and also the complexity, and also eventually the achievement of the project. So you need to define the scope properly, and you need to clearly state what actions you need to do in order to carry out the project. Okay. So and why it matters, and this part actually is very important, is because the motivation is very important. Because if you work out some projects, right? So without a motivation, without a strong motivation, without highlighting that who will benefit from these projects, then actually eventually this project, maybe you have an excellent idea, but eventually it solves the problem that people might not need. I mean, your solutions might not be something that people need. So that's why it is very important to talk about the motivation, right? And how to do it. You need to outline methodology, describe steps, and so on and so forth, right? So actually, when I'm teaching, right? Actually, I'm teaching a course at the university's named Inventive Problem Solving and Proposal Writing. So I like to use this analogy. So you may think of, for instance, when a guy want to propose to a lady, right? So well, now it's equal already lah. The lady can also propose to a marriage proposal, right? So would you marry me? All right. So when you have this proposal, how is it, I mean, similar to our project proposal? How is it similar? So it is still the same. For instance, you want to propose to the grant agency in order to give you some funding in order to work on some projects. And for the marriage proposals that you want to propose, all right, for instance, a gentleman want to propose to a lady, would you marry me? All right. So they are called propose, right, or proposal. So are they in some extent the same? All right. That's the questions. So for instance, if you want you want a lady to marry to you, so what will you need to convince the ladies, right? So first of all, of course, you need to highlight that you are good guys, right? I'm a good person, right? I'm honest, I'm hardworking. I'm kind to everyone, so I'm a nice person, and so on. So you need to highlight that I'm a good person. I have all the good characteristics. I have my strengths, and I have my all the good things about myself, right? This is what I want to highlight to the lady. Am I correct? So because if you don't highlight this, then people may think that why I want to marry you, because I can choose other guys, right, other than you. So it's the same thing when it comes to the proposal, because funding agency, they have limited funding. So when they want to decide which proposal they want to fund, they need to look at how good is it for the proposal, whether this project will benefit many people, right? Whether it is a critical field, right? So they will look at the characteristic of the projects, right? Whether this is a good project and worth funding, right? So that is first part. So in order to propose, you need to justify that this is a good project. This is something really, really good for us to work on, right? So secondly, even you have good projects, even you have good idea, you need to have a plan to carry out. For instance, you propose to a lady, right? So that would you marry me? And then you say, I'm a good guy, I'm kind, I'm hardworking, and so on and so forth, right? Then the lady will say, so what, right? Then you need to have a plan, right? You need to have a plan. What do you mean by for a plan? For instance, you need to promise the lady some things, right? So if we get married, so I will give you half of my salary, right? So when you are set, you need somebody to rely on. So I will always be there for you to lean on. So I would always be there to support you, be it a good time or bad time, and so on and so forth. So you need to promise something, right? So, and you need to have a plan, right? Not just by saying that I'm a good person. You need to have a plan to carry out your promise for the whole life of course, for the project is during the project duration. So in the project proposal, also the same thing. Other than justify that this is a good project, so this project will benefit many others, you need to also have a plan, right? You need to have a plan, a plan to carry out the project in order to achieve all the objectives that you highlight. So that's why all the proposals are the same. They have to have two major components. One, why this is a good project, right? Why this is a good project, and why people need to fund this project, approve this project. Secondly, what are the plans, right? What are the steps in order to carry out the project, in order to achieve the objectives that you highlighted. So these are two very important things in the projects, in a proposal, right? Okay, so why write a proposal? You need to organize your ideas, right? Just now we mentioned already, we have, in order to achieve, in order to highlight these two components, right? Why this is a good project and I have a good plan. So you need to organize the ideas, right, in a logical flow so that people can follow, right? People can follow. And you need to convince others. Actually, other than, for instance, for us, right, we are the researchers, right? We look into a lot of research problems. But to be good in research is not enough, right? You need to also convince, because when we publish papers or we submit a proposal, you need to convince people that what I've been doing actually carry a lot of values to the society, to others, right? So you need to demonstrate the values, right? This is not only for my own interest, but it is actually for the values of the entire society, or for the value of the community, right? You need to convince people about this. So of course, you need to get approval, you need to secure support, right, in order to work on this project, and eventually this will lead to a success. So I just roughly talk about in a very abstract way, okay, what is a proposal. So next I will come to more specific, because you may have a question. So yeah, I understand that we need to organize the ideas, we need to convince people, we need to have a plan and so on and so forth. But how to do that? How to do that? Okay. So first of all, this is very, very important. I always highlight to my students that no problem, no projects. Problem is something that is essential in a project or in a proposal. If you don't have a problem, then what are you doing here? I mean, why you need a project or proposal, right? So no matter how creative your idea is, it must solve something real, right? Something that people are concerned about, something that carry values to others, right? So that is very, very important. That is very important, right? So the problem actually gives your idea a purpose, a purpose. So if without the problem, then actually your project or your proposal would not have a proper purpose, so that you can move towards to, right? So problem is a very important and essential part of the projects, right? And this problem must be the problem of others, right? Not your, for instance, if you want to work on some problem, maybe you are not capable of doing that. You need to learn a lot of things. That is your problem. When we talk about problems, this is the problem whereby others may be suffering from. That's why you need to provide some idea and solutions to solve this problem, right? So no problem, no project. And problem is the first part of the project. Okay, why a problem statements matters, right? So for instance, you have a group of students, right? You say maybe you just receive an assignment from your teachers, right? You need to create mobile applications to help people, right? So this is a very general problem, right? So build a app to help people. How? So maybe you just okay lah. I just try to build some app, right? So you start to do some coding, develop some mobile applications, but when you develop this, you may not know what people need and what is the real problem for you to solve. You just develop something based on your own understanding and what you want. So eventually, after a few months, right, you have an app, but no one wants to use, because if you are not solving problems of others, even you have a good product, then people may not want to use. So even your app could be very fancy, but eventually it might not be practical. So if nobody wants to use, then this is still a failed project, because you did not identify a real problem to solve, right? So on the other hand, suppose that you have another more specific problem, right? So many elderly people in their town forget to take their medications on time, right? You have a very specific problem. Now you have a target users, right? So elderly people. What is their problem? Because normally they need to take quite some medicines every day, or some medicine they may need to take once a week and so on. There are too many medicines already. They may just forget the time to take these medicines. Right? This is a problem. This is a very specific problem. So, and this is a very clear problem statement. So then you start to work on an app to help them. Right? So before you start to work on an app to help them, you need to also interview them, all right, discuss with them, understand their needs, all right, understand their needs, and how you need to make the apps convenient for them, right? So then you can start to develop a simple reminder applications. Yeah, elderly people, right? They may not have good good eyesight. Okay, they may some of them may even visually impaired, so that they may not be able to read. And then in that case, you may need to have voice alerts, right? So when it comes to the time, maybe you just have some voice reminder them that, oh, it's time for you to take cholesterol drugs, or it's time for you to take high blood pressure drug, and so on and so forth. Right. So once you develop these, and if people find that it is useful, then the community may recommend it for every patient if this can really improve their taking, I mean the taking of these medication, right? So the community may start to recommend it to other elderlies. So in that case, this project actually solve a real need, right? So has a real impact. That is what we hope to see, right? This is what we hope to see. That's why if you don't have a clear problem statement, so it will be difficult for you to create something that will be useful to others, and it will be difficult for you to create impact, right, to others. Okay. So yeah, this is just some small exercise, right? Perhaps you can take out a paper, right? So just think about, okay, yeah, in your daily life, right? Maybe at school, at home, something that you think, oh, there must be some, I mean, it is something that you are frustrated with, and this is a problem. So you think that there should be a way to improve this. Perhaps you just write it down, write down. You can share with me later. All right, you can share with me later. Just write down your frustration and whether this is a problem that is worth solving. Okay. Yeah, perhaps I give you a few minutes to think about this. In the meantime, let me check whether there's any. Okay, just think about, because actually I always joke with my students that actually my wife hates me because when she cook, right? When she cook, and when she cook, sometimes when I was beside her, I would try to say, hey, why don't you just cook in this way? Why don't you cook in another way? Because to me, I mean, that is already part of me already. That's, I always try to identify whether there's a way to improve the process. There's how to improve, all right? Maybe how to improve the entire process in order to work more efficiently, for instance. So sometimes my wife hate me because I always have some comments, right? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? So she normally would just chase me out from the kitchen and say that I'm cooking, so it's none of your business, right? So that is actually a kind of a research mindset, meaning that you try to identify the problems in your life, right? So that you can see whether there's a way for you to improve all these matters, right? Okay, so you can just keep it, right? So maybe you later on you can use this particular problem that you have, right? Then you can go through some of the process and see whether you can come up with some plan in order to solve this problem, right? Okay. Any questions so far? If there's no question, I will continue, right? Okay. So people talk about innovation, right? Innovation is not about the solution, not only about the solutions. It is about problem. If you ask me, all right, what would be the weights of a good problem and a good solution? I would say that a good problem actually worth equally, worth equally credits compared to the good solutions, or even more, sometimes even more. Because if you don't have if you have a good solution but you don't have a right problem to solve, then eventually it is still a waste of your effort, right? So only if you define the problems in a right way, then only then your solution is meaningful. So innovation is actually equal to problem plus solutions, not only solution itself, right? Okay. So, but a problem actually is a conceptual term, right? Invented by humans, right? So for instance, you are using your mobile phone. I believe that most of you are using mobile phones every day, and many people, very difficult to get away from the mobile phone, even for half a day, right? So if you use your mobile phone every day and you think, oh, this is very good, you have all the features that you want, you can communicate with people, your games to play, it is very nice, and so on and so forth. If you don't feel any problem, right, then you are good with this mobile phone, right? You are good with this mobile, and nothing for you to change this mobile phone, right? But some people may think that, oh, this mobile phone is too, the size is too large. The size is too large. So it's very difficult for me to put into a pocket. But on the other hand, if a large size screen, if the screen size is very small, it is very difficult for me to view the contents of the mobile phone. So I want the mobile phones to have a large screen so that I can read easily. But on the other hand, I want it to be a small in a small size so that I can put in my pocket. Then you have a problem to solve, right? So this problem lead to what? Lead to what solution? You know, now Huawei and many others, they start to have this foldable mobile phone, right? Why we have this foldable mobile phone? Why we have this kind of innovation? It comes from the dissatisfactions of the current status. When we are using mobile phone, we found that it is too small when I want to read it. It is too large when I want to put in the pocket. Then people will start to think of how to solve this problem. Right? They must have some change in order to resolve this problem. So, for instance, some other guys, they may be using their mobile phones every day playing game, but after half a day, the battery power drain out. So you found that, oh, there's a big problem that the battery life is so short, not enough for you to do a lot of things. Then you have another problem, right? Then you have another problem. So then you can say, okay, now if I have a problem with this battery life, so what I need to do is to resolve the problem. Sorry. Okay, so my screen, two parts. Sorry. Maybe I share again. I share again. Sorry. I share the entire, okay. Is it better?
Okay.
Better? Okay, I'm sorry. Perhaps this. Sorry, I did not. I share again because I did not turn on the voice. Okay, I need to turn on the share sound. Okay. Is it okay now? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry. So a problem actually is a conceptual term. If no human, right, then actually there's no problem. Nature will just run in their way, right? So, but when when humans think that okay, we are facing some difficulties, we are facing some challenging, we want to change something, then we start to invent this term, what we call the problem. So problem is from the human perspective, right? It's always from the human perspective. So no problems, there are always problems. It just depends whether you realize it is a problem. Just like the example that I mentioned, right? You can do a lot of things with your mobile phone, right? You can use it every day. You think you are so comfortable with your mobile phone, no problem, right? But if somebody thinks that the size actually is too small, the size too large, the battery life is too short, the features not enough, and so on and so forth, then there are some problems, right? So people will have different interpretations, right, or different concepts, right, that generate the problems, right? So as soon as we can predict that something that satisfies us today wouldn't satisfy tomorrow, then we have problems, right? So problems are generated by human, right, in short. So what is a problem? Normally, a problem can be a need to improve the delivery of a useful function. For instance, you are companies, right? In a company, they put in a lot of budgets for this advertisement, but it doesn't really produce enough turnover. So if I want to have more efficiency, then I may want to increase the number of advertisements. So another perspective is that a need to eliminate a negative effect. So for instance, a skilled, experienced person at a shop floor irritates his colleagues. So this is a negative effect, right? So you can just fire the person, then solve the problem, right? So these are all simple problems for you to solve, right? Either you want to improve the delivery of useful function, or you want to eliminate some negative effect, right? So, but normally for this kind of problem, it is not that straightforward and simple. For instance, if you want to increase the delivery of a use function such as advertisement, you need more cost, you need more budget, right? Whether you have enough budget. If you have enough budget, then that's not a problem. But if you have limited budget, then that becomes a constraint or limitation that you need to solve. So the same thing, if you want to eliminate a negative effect, yeah, you can fire the person that irritate others. But the thing is that you lead to the loss of the skills needed. How you resolve this problem? So again, sometimes problems not come only by a simple form, but they can be a very complicated form, right? There could be a lot of different factors that you need to balance out, right? So, but overall, a problem is that either you want to improve or enhance the performance, or you want to eliminate something that you don't want, some harmful effect, right? These are two possible aspects that you can generate a problem, right? Okay, so why a proposal must start with problem? Again, because all the solutions, right, you need a problem, you need a purpose, right? The problem gives you the purpose. And also you need to relate this to audience, because if you just say that I want to develop an app, then your audience will ask, so what? You want to develop that? Then so what you want to develop app? So what would it benefit, or how is the impact? We don't know, right? So, but if you have a clear problem, then you can start to build the connections. Mean you can convince your audience that this project is very important. This solution will benefit hundreds or even thousands of residents in this area, right? So then your audience will feel that, whoa, now I understand why you want to do this. Because it is critical and important to many others, and it will be beneficial to many others, right? So with this problem, then you can logically, step by step, get to the solution, right? Otherwise, your solution will be hanging there without any base. Remember, the problem is the base of a solution, right? So, for example, right, again, suppose that you want to create and develop a mobile application, right? So if you just say that we want to create an app to manage study time, but why you want to do this? So what? I mean, you create to manage study time. So what is the objective and why you want to do that? So you need to explain why, right? For instance, students struggle with time management, leading to missed deadline. So we propose an app to guide their planning. So now you have the reason already. Because why? Because time management, students have time management, right, issue that they cannot submit their assignments in time. So in order to solve this problem, you propose an app to guide them. So the problem is clearer, right? You have a problem there so that your solutions has a meaning, right? So for the first one, the solution, you have a solution, but there's no problem, right? You don't know what you are solving and why people need it. But for the second one, you have a clear problem that what you want to solve. So your solution, your products will be solving the time management problem of the students. So this has to be clearly defined, right, in a proposal or in a project. So we talk about the problems. Actually, later I'll emphasize. I mean, I'll highlight more other things about the problem. So here I give you some suggested sequence. This is not the fixed rules, but in general, when you write a proposal, first of all, you need to have a title, right? The title have to be clear, concise, relevant, and catchy, right? So that people, in just one sentence, people know what you want to do, right? How it is relevant. And if possible, it is catchy so that people will say, oh, this is a good project. I mean, when they have the first impression, when they look at this title. So if possible, it has to be catchy. Catchy is optional, but sometimes it is not easy to have a catchy title. So after you have a title, then the next, again, as what I mentioned, very importantly, you need to have a background description. You need to discuss what is the background of this problem and who has this problem, what is the problem and who has this problem, and why this problem is so important to solve, right? These are the motivation, why you want to do this project. And again, this is a very, very important part, and many people may forget this because they focus too much on what they intend to do and forget about to convince others why you want to do this and who will be beneficial from this and so on. But again, this is really, really important part in a proposal, right? Otherwise, you cannot convince people to buy your ideas, right? If you want people to buy your ideas, you need to let them know you are solving their problem. Just like, for instance, you make a pencil, right? You make a pen. For instance, this pen, I want to sell this to you. If I just tell you that sorry, someone saying something. Okay, sorry. Okay, so if I want to sell this pen to you, if I just tell you I invest $1 million of ringgit in order to create this pen, and this is a very well-designed pen, and so on. So I highlight a lot of things about how I designed this pen. But eventually people will say, why I want to buy this? How this pen will be good for me? So you need to highlight that this pen actually is a very well designed, so that when you write on the pen, with the pen actually, the ink will come out smoothly, and you can write either big fonts or small fonts, so it can be in different scenarios. It can still write smoothly and so on. So you need to highlight how this pen is important to others, right? It's just like in your project, you need to highlight how important this project is to others, especially to your target audience or target readers, right? So background, problem statement, and motivation, then objectives. So, okay, you have a problem already. Now the next is that you need to formulate some of the objectives in order to address the problem, right? So these objectives have to be clear and measurable. So use SMART. If possible, I will discuss SMART later, right? SMART. SMART actually, each one relevant to one characteristics. All right. SMART, S stand for specific, M stand for measurable, A is achievable, R is relevant, and T is time based. Right. So I'll discuss this later. And then after you have the objectives, so you have objectives already, how you can propose a solution in order to solve this problem, in order to achieve the objectives that you just stated, right? And what will be the plan, and what are the steps, right? So in order to carry out the projects, and eventually, what will be the expected outcomes, right? What will be the positive changes or results do you expect from the projects, right? This is the rough guideline about the sequence in a proposal, right? So you may not want to follow exactly this flow, but at least you need to understand for each of these components, they come with some purpose, so that you arrange the problem, objective, solution, outcome logically, so that your audience can follow you, so that they can understand why this project is so important. What are the objectives that you want to solve? How you're going to achieve these objectives, and what is the plan, and what would you expect to as the outputs of these projects? Okay, so the project title is part of the proposal as well, right? The project title is part of the project as well. So the project title, you need to clear, concise, and relevant, and if possible, catchy, right? So here I show you some examples, right? So for some of the title, it could be too weak, right? So they may suggest a set of broad topics, but not the approaches to these topics. For instance, so traffic light control algorithm. So you want to develop some traffic light control algorithm. But why? Why you want to have this traffic light control algorithm, right? So what would be the good? What would be the impact, and so on and so forth, right? So you can have an improved one, for instance, an adaptive traffic light control algorithm for load balancings for traffic regulation. So you know the approach, right? The approach is that this is an adaptive traffic light control algorithm. So what is the purpose? The purpose is for load balancing, and eventually, hopefully, you can regulate the urban traffic. So you can see that from the improved one, you know more details, right? You know more details about the projects. what would be the products itself, and what is the purpose, right? Ultimately, what you are trying to solve. Okay. So another example, security on wireless local area network. So again, this is a very vague topics. So from here, you can't, actually, this is just like a textbook. It's very difficult for you to actually come up with, think of what would be the contents of the projects, right? So an improvement can be defending wireless local area network from sniffing and spoofing attacks for institutional cybersecurity. So with this, then you know what you are doing, right? Very specifically, so you are trying to defend the local area network from sniffing and spoofing attacks. And for what purpose? For the institutional cybersecurity. So this is the improved one, and it is clear, concise, and also with impact. So embedded system, and again, this is another big topic, right? Just like a textbooks, right? So you can have a lightweight analog to digital conversion on PIC 16F87X microcontroller. So a lightweight actually is objective, meaning that actually you don't want to have a very complicated solutions. It's a very simple solutions that you can carry or embedded with some of the simple device, right? So a lightweight analog to digital conversions, right? You now talk about the approach already. So with what device? Again, here is another a packet routing using Linux PC. So again, it's very general, very weak. So improved one is a low cost bandwidth management with QoS control using Linux toolbox. So low cost actually is also an objective. You want to achieve some, because the normal bandwidth management tool could be very expensive. So you want to create a low cost solutions. So low cost itself is also some contribution or achievement in a project. So from these titles, when you define the titles, you need to be specific. Try to give more info, but not too lengthy as well. Not too lengthy as well. So concise, clear, and if possible, provide some impact from your title. So this is about the title. All right. Any questions? Before I move on, any questions about the title? Yeah. Let me see. Okay. Okay. So again, we always ask this question. You should always ask this question whether you are solving the right problem, right? So if you have a brilliant solution, but eventually you are solving a wrong problem, it is still a failure. It is still a failure, right? Later, I will give you some example to discuss this. If I'm too fast, let me know. Okay. So why problem formulation matters is because, again, problems actually, the concept of problem actually is created by human, right? So it is subjective. So a problem to you may not be a problem to others, right? So for instance, if a student, they don't care about their results of the examination, even they fail, it doesn't mean anything to them. So they just don't care, right? If they don't care, there's no problem, right? They don't have any problem to solve. But if you care, for instance, now my midterm test is very low, the marks is very low. To me, it is a big problem because I want to achieve A for the course in the entire semester. So then it is a problem because my midterm marks is so low. I need to really score much higher in order to average up the marks. Then it is a problem to me. Then you need to start to think of how to solve this problem. How can you improve, right, in such a short time? So a problem to someone may not be the problem to others, right? It is really subjective. So the thing is that your interpretation defines the path of your solution. Because if you have different interpretation, eventually that will lead to different path. That's why actually for problem solving, I would say it is a mixture of science and art, right? Arts in the sense that you can have different interpretation, you can have different path, right? It really depends on what you want to highlight, right? What problem you want to solve, right? That is a art part. But to solve the problem itself is a scientific process, right? How you use a scientific approach in order to solve this problem. So it's a mixture of arts and science, right? So arts in a way that how you interpret the problem, right? Science is how you solve the problem, right? Is not equivalent to a success unless it is for the right problem. You have to always keep in mind about this one, right? You need to define a right problem to solve, right? If you solve a poorly defined or relearned problems, that may lead to wasted effort eventually, right? So that is very important for you to look into the right problem to solve. Okay, this is an example. Okay, this is an example. I don't know how many of you have seen this phone before. I think old people like us, right? I'm sorry, I shouldn't use old, but perhaps senior. Yeah, yeah. This is a Nokia 3350 or 3310. Okay, so I believe that for those young students, you might not have seen this phone before. This is a very typical sellable 2G phone, right? Second generation phone. You know, Nokia used to be a big brand when they have these, when we have this first generation or second generation mobile phone, right? So they are solid. Nokia phones are normally very solid and also simple, and the battery life is very long, right? So this is the typical 2G era. So during the second generation mobile phone, right, the functions are very simple. You use the mobile phones to make phone call, right? Of course, this is much better than the first generation, right? Because first generation we have this what we call the 大哥大 or big brother big, right? It's just like a brick, right? This is size in terms of size tiny already, much more powerful compared to the first generation. Okay, so normally people will use this mobile phone to do what? To call, make phone call, right? Sending short message, right? Sending short message, so SMS and so on. So that's why the keypad is very simple. The keypad is very simple. You just need to, this is what we call T9 keypad, right? You have numerical and text input. For text input, right, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Each key actually represents also different characters. So that if you want to key in, right, you may just use this 9 key in order to key in either numerical or text input. Actually, it's not only 9 key, actually totally 12, including those symbols and other things. So this is a second generation. This second generation is good enough already. This mobile phone for second generations mobile communication is good enough already because we do not have complicated communications. But when it comes to the third generation, right? When we have third generation, we start to emphasize data services, right? You may want to use the mobile phones to browse website, send text files, type more complicated messages, and so on and so forth. Even keep the documents, edit the documents, and so on and so forth. So you need more complicated actions, right? When you want to key in something to the third generation mobile phone. So obviously this T9 keypad is no longer sufficient. Am I correct? This is not sufficient because if you want to key in, for instance, a browse website and key in some of the response, so this 9 key I mean, this T9 keypad is not enough for you to key in complicated text files. It's not convenient. So in order to enable these data services, then you have a problem already. You have a problem. How can we improve this keypad? How can we improve this? That is a problem. So that problems, when you define these problems, actually, how you interpret the problems will lead to different solutions. Okay, for instance, anyone seen this before? Anyone have seen this before? This is a BlackBerry mobile phone, right? So this BlackBerry mobile phone, right? They integrate the entire keyboards into physical keyboards into a mobile phone. You can see that this is what we call QWERTY keyboards. QWERTY is actually QWERTY. Actually is the first few characters on the left-hand side of the keyboards. You can see that actually this is the mini physical keyboards, right? Because BlackBerry know the problem already. So Nokia or other second generation mobile phone is not enough for them to key in complicated text file using just simple keypad. Now they just integrate the entire keyboards into the mobile phone. Actually, it's not easy. It's not easy because you see that there are many small keys, right? You need to have very well designed the board in order for you to have these tiny keyboards, right? So the full set of tiny physical keys, right? Focus on secure email, enterprise communication. Yeah, this solved the problem, right? This is the solutions by BlackBerry, right? They use the tiny physical keyboard to integrate it into the mobile phone so that when you use it, actually you can type in complicated message, right? So this is a BlackBerry's solution, right? Resolve the limitation of T9 keypad by integrating a full set of keys directly into the device. So it is good. It used to be a good products and people want to buy these products, right? When it first came to the market, right? During the early third generation era, okay. But you know, you have no longer seen this anymore, right? Am I correct? So you have not seen this anymore. Why? Because again, if you have this keypad, also this keypad, this keyboard actually is about 1/3 of the size of your mobile phone already. So yes, it solved the problem, but actually it is not convenient to use, right? And also the design and maintenance are all very complicated. So then what do we have? Then we have this touchscreen revolution, right? So of course, the representative brand is Apple iPhone. So the features that, okay, the Apple iPhone and BlackBerry, they all see the same problems, right? T9 keypad is no longer sufficient, right? No longer sufficient for these 3G communication, right? Because more data services are require more complicated keyboard. So then BlackBerry used the physical keyboards integrated into the mobile phone. But iPhone, they have another approach. They use the touchscreen. They use touchscreen so that when you do not need the keyboard, then you have the full screen for you to drag and drop and interact with the phone, with the icon, right? If you need the keyboard, actually you can call the keyboard applications, then you can have the full keyboards to use. So Apple's first generations, right? This is the iPhone 1. So introduce a capacitive touchscreen with a full virtual keyboard. So it enables a smoother and more intuitive typing experience for users. So this design approach, right, still remain as a dominant and continue to be used in smartphones today. Even 4G, 5G, we are still using this touchscreen, right, for all the smartphones. So for young people like all our students here, I believe that now you are so used to this touchscreen, right, and also the virtual keyboard. So much so that you may not actually you may not be able to imagine at our time. I think not long ago, about 10 years ago, or 15 years or 15 years, maybe 10 to 15 years ago, whereby we need to have this keypad to key in text message and so on and so forth, right? You might not be able to imagine that, but that is our old time. So this touchscreen revolution actually is a big breakthrough, right, in terms of design of the mobile phone. So you can see that both BlackBerry and Apple, they see the same problem. They see the same problem, but the interpretations of the problem and the solution is different, right? So BlackBerry, they think in a very straightforward way. Physical keypad, not enough. They put a physical keyboard into their mobile phone. But Apple iPhone, they have a different way of thinking. Physical keypad is not enough, then I make it virtual. So you can see that actually when you have different interpretations of the problem and the solutions, that the idea, then you will lead to different solutions. So if you can define or interpret it in a right way, then actually your solutions can last even longer than those I mean, I wouldn't say misinterpretation, but just maybe their consideration is not sufficient, right? Not sufficient. Okay. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Let me see. Yes, seen before. Okay, good. Some of you have seen this before. Okay, good. Okay. So in order for you to actually formulate a good problem, you need to continuously ask why, and why in order to find a root cause. For instance, right? So just now we mentioned that a student, right? Maybe the midterm test is he performed poorly. Then you need to ask why, right? You can ask why. For instance, if it is me, then I ask why. Why I cannot perform well in the midterm, right? Then you need to find out the cause, right? Find out the cause. Because I can't answer most of the questions in the test paper, right? Then again, you can continue to ask why. Why I cannot answer most of the questions in the test papers, okay? Oh, because I did not read them. I mean, I did not actually do the revision right before the test, because everything was in the textbook. So if I have done the revision thoroughly, then I should know the answers. Or I have done all the exercises, I should be able to answer this. So then you continue to ask why you did not do the revision, why I did not do the revision, why I did not do the exercise. Okay, the next question, oh, I don't have time to do that. Okay, Then you can continue to ask why I don't have time to do that? Or because I spend time in other activities. Okay, why you spend time in other activities? Oh, because I think that other activities are more fun to me. So I did not pay attention to this. And you can continue to ask why. Because when you ask why, you further dig down to see what is the real cause that to lead to your problem, right? Because when we see the problem could be at a very high level. When we see a problem at a high level, it is very difficult for us to resolve, right? Very difficult for us to come up with concrete solutions in order to resolve. So through this process, asking why, and why, then you start to dig down to find out the cause, right? So maybe because the real cause is that I don't care too much about the revision, right? I just play games, right? I did not have good time management and so on and so forth. That is the real reason why I could not perform well in my midterm test. So once you find out the root cause or the causes, as long as you can solve the causes, then your problem can be solved. Okay, so sometimes we may not need to solve the problem at the root level, but as long as you can solve the problem, at some level, you cut the cost. When you can cut the cost, then actually you can solve your problem. Okay, later I will show you an example, right? So the final problem have to be refined and specific. This is another example. For instance, initially you have a problem. Students are always sleepy during class. Okay, again, this is very high level observations, right? It's an observation. Of course, it is a problem, but such a problem, you don't know what to solve, how to resolve this problem because you don't know the cause until you ask why, and why, right? So maybe you ask why, finally you may find out that why students are always sleepy during class is because why is because students have poor bedtime routines due to weak planning skills. Then you have the cause that you can resolve. Once you resolve this cause, then your problem can be resolved. Okay, so this is what we call the cause and effect change analysis, right? All the problems are the effects of some causes, right? The causes could be the effects of some other causes, right? So there's a whole change. It's a change. Just like just now I show the example, right? I did not perform well in the midterm test because I did not know how to answers. And why I did not know how to answers because I did not do the revisions. Why I did not do the revision because I did not manage my time well. And so you can see that this is a change, right? This is a change. This change, right? You always try to find out the cause of the effect. Then the cause itself is the effect of another cause. And another cause is the effect of another cause. And so then you find out a whole series of change so that you can try to see where you can cut it off. If you can cut it off at somewhere, then actually you can solve your problem. So a cause and effect change generates hypothesis about the possible causes and effects of problems, right? Or a CEC or a cause and effect change analysis is a structured way of expressing the hypothesis about the causes of a problem and about why something is happening or something is not happening. Okay. So it helps to focus attentions on the process where a problem is occurring and to allow constructive use of facts to narrow down on the actual causes. Right. Just remember, cause and effect change, right? Sometimes could be also based on some thoughts or some abstract idea. So if you really want to do it, you need to further have some testing to test, right? You need to have further testing to test whether this is really the cause of the effect. Or for example, for instance, if your light bulb suddenly doesn't work, even you turn on the switch, right? Then you can start to think of whether it is because the filament burn out, or it is because there's a blackout or something. Then you need to have further actions in order to verify what you assume, whether it is the real cause or not. So this is the empirical testing, but at least the cause and effect change provide you with a change. After you test all these change, you know that this is really the real causes of these effects. Then you can start to see how you resolve the problem. Okay. I'll give you an example. So before we have a break, so I'll give you an example. So for instance, we know this is a problem, right? Dengue fever is spreading. Dengue fever is spreading. And this is a big problem, right? To us, especially in Malaysia, right? We have this dengue fever. It's seasonal. In certain seasons, we have this dengue fever, right? So then you want to solve this problem. You want to solve this problem. So in order to solve this problem, you need to ask why. Am I correct? Why dengue fever is spreading? Then you say, oh, because Aedes mosquitoes carry dengue virus. Yeah, this is one of the reasons dengue virus can only be carried by Aedes mosquitoes. So Aedes mosquitoes carry dengue virus. So you can actually have a parallel path. And Aedes mosquitoes carry dengue virus is alone. It alone cannot be the cause, but it have to together with another cause. There are too many Aedes mosquitoes already. So both causes put together, then it will cause that dengue fever is spreading. Am I correct? So this is the causes why dengue fever is spreading. Can you continue to ask why? So for instance, why there are too many Aedes mosquitoes, right? You can ask why, right? You can ask why there are too many Aedes mosquitoes. So why? Because too many discarded open containers with stagnant waters. So the mosquitoes like to breed in all this kind of water, right? Containers, right? Stagnant water, right? So that their larvae can live in these environments, right? So this is another reason, right? Okay, the too many discarded open containers with stagnant water. This is actually the cause of the effect that there are too many Aedes mosquitoes. And there are too many Aedes mosquitoes is also the cause of the dengue fever is spreading. So you can continue to ask why Aedes mosquitoes carry dengue virus. When you don't know how to answer why, then maybe you stop here. So why Aedes mosquitoes carry dengue virus? This is the nature of the Aedes mosquitoes. This is just, I mean, somehow this is just the nature, right? Just the nature. Okay. So suppose that you draw this chain already. This is a cause and effect change that you already find out. Okay. Now, how you solve the problem? You can solve the problem in either of any of these boxes. You can solve the problem in any of these boxes. For instance, let's look at this box. There are too many Aedes mosquitoes. All right. Suppose that you come to this stage, you say, okay, I want to solve the problem at this stage. I want to solve the problem at this stage. How to solve the problem at this stage? How to prevent many Aedes mosquitoes, right? So what you can do is that you can use insecticides fogging. Right? I think most of us have this. I think all of us are experienced this, right? In certain dengue hotspot areas. So the clinic kesehatan, right? will just send their people to actually spray these insecticides fogging, right, in order to kill those adult mosquitoes, right? Because when the adult mosquitoes bite on some of the dengue infected patients, then the dengue virus will come to the adult mosquitoes, and the adult mosquitoes is fly and bite another person, they will transfer the dengue virus to another person. Am I correct? So that's why you do this fogging, right? In order to kill all the infected adult mosquitoes. Am I correct? Then you can reduce the number of Aedes mosquitoes, right? With this, then actually you solve part of the problem. But actually, this is not a long-term solution. Why? Because this fogging activity uses insecticides to kill only adult mosquitoes, while the larvae can still develop, become adult mosquitoes, right? It doesn't really kill the larva of the mosquitoes. All right. So yeah, this is the solution, but this is still not the perfect solution. Right? It's just you need to solve the immediate problem because this area is already the dengue hotspot that you want to at least kill the adult mosquito so that the virus will not further spread to other areas. Okay. Okay. So we discussed already what if there are too many Aedes mosquitoes, we can actually spray these insecticide fogging in order to kill the adult Aedes mosquito, in order to reduce the number of Aedes mosquitoes, right? That is a solution. How about this? Too many discarded open containers with stagnant water. Can we resolve this? Can we resolve this? Okay. Yeah, definitely we can resolve this because by education, right? We educate people about what is the life cycle of mosquitoes, right? We should not allow the mosquitoes to breed so that they can have their offsprings in the area. So one thing is that we need to drain out all the water in some pot, right? From time to time, we need to check, right? So we need to drain the water reservoirs and bury the used goods that can hold waters, right? Periodically look for water tray that potentially become a place for mosquitoes to breed, right? So through this, actually, we can further reduce the chance of Aedes mosquito to breed. And in the meantime, we can actually reduce the number of Aedes mosquitoes. Okay, so this is another solution at another level. So remember that we have these three causes, right? There are too many Aedes mosquitoes, so we can have this insecticide fogging. And if we have too many discarded open containers with stagnant waters, through education or even punishment, right? We can find those people in their household if they have this kind of containers, right? Open containers with stagnant waters, right? Then the clinic consultant may actually summon you, right, to find you because of this. So through these different activities, actually we can reduce the number of Aedes mosquitoes in order to prevent dengue fever from spreading, right? So we can solve the problem at these two boxes. So how about the other box? Aedes mosquitoes carry dengue virus. Anyone think that this can be resolved? Can we resolve at this level? All right. Can we resolve at this level? Okay. So actually, it is possible. Okay. Okay, let me show you a video. Let me show a video. Okay, interesting. So, in other words, actually, when you draw out this cause and effect change analysis, right, that will lead you to some of the possible solution, right? So these possible solutions, depending on your knowledge and your technology and the innovation, right? That you can think of any solutions to solve the problem. So for dengue virus, right? The problem of that dengue virus is spreading, right? So you can solve in a way that you want to reduce the number of Aedes mosquitoes, right? So you can use an insecticide fogging. You can educate the people, residents, to discard the containers and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, you have another path, right? You have another path. So if you can make Aedes mosquitoes not to carry dengue virus, then actually you can also control dengue fever, right? How to do that? Is that through the study, the scientists found that there's a virus, there's a bacteria called Wolbachia. So for this Wolbachia bacteria, if the female Aedes mosquitoes carry this uh, bacteria, they will frame the the activities of these dengue virus. Right? They will limit the growth of the dengue virus inside the body. So in other words, for these female Aedes mosquitoes, right, when they bite on some patients, right, when they bite on some patients with dengue virus, they suck in the dengue virus, but the dengue virus cannot grow inside the body of these Aedes mosquitoes. So that, and when these mosquito fly to bite another person, because the dengue virus cannot grow inside the body, they will not be transmitted to the next person. So that is how we can control the dengue fever. So this is a very interesting project. I believe that Malaysia actually we somehow we also have the plan to introduce these solutions, right, in order to control the dengue virus. But of course, for this kind of uh, solutions that involve some biological modifications, right? So we still need to study whether there's any side effects of this kind of solution. But that actually provides us another way of thinking, right? How we can solve this problem in addition to the traditional way. Okay, so in other words, when you draw out the cause and effect change, right? When you analyze all these, as long as you can somehow cut off one of the cause, then your problem might likely to be solvable. Is there any questions? So shall we take a break here? Yeah, I think let's take a break of 10 minutes. So before we come to the next session, is it okay? Okay. Now it is about 10:30, so we come back at 10:40. Okay, then see you later. So is everyone back? Can we continue? Okay, just now we discussed about how to formulate the problems. So of course, the problem will start from observation, right? Observation. So you have some abstract high-level problem. You observe the high-level problem. Once you observe the high-level problem, you need to do some analysis. You need to do the cause and effect change analysis. Ask why, and why, so that you can develop a change of causes and effects. And then from these causes and effects, you need to pick up one of the causes, then you try to solve that problem, right? Then that will be more specific. So the problem statement in your proposal has to be specific, So it has to be from the observations, right? The problems at the high level, right? But when you want to solve the problem, it has to be a more specific level, how you want to solve it. And after you solve it, who will be beneficial from these solutions, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so again, here is another example. For instance, there is a problem with students in submitting homework in time. So this is again a high level problem because we don't know what is the cost. So if we don't know how with the cost, then how we cannot solve it because we can't just force. Students cannot submit homework in time. Then we just force them. You have to submit it. Otherwise, I will punish you. Otherwise, I will do a lot of other things in order for you to submit. So the things that you can't force because you don't know the root cause. So only when you know the root cause, for instance, because they have poor time management, right? So then you can actually focus on this problem, then provide a solution to this problem. So if you can solve the poor time management problem, then the high level problem that the students submit homework late should be able to be solved, right? So that's why the problem statement in your proposal has to be specific. Okay, once you have problems already, so you need to develop some objectives in order to solve the problem, right? So your objectives basically is that you have this problem already. Now I want to have a project. The project actually would present some of the objectives in order to achieve some of the objectives. So these objectives would resolve the problems, then highlight in that highlights the problems that you encounter. So a good objective normally will tell you where you are going. So it connects your problem to your solution plan, right? You have problem, you need to have objectives, only then you start to have your plan, okay? So in general, the objectives have to be clear, realistic, and tractable, okay? So which is what we call SMART rule, right? SMART rule, actually, SMRT, they stand for a specific characteristics of your objectives. For S actually stands for specific, right? So you need to be clear what you want to achieve. You have to be clear and measurable. How you can measure that the objectives can be achieved, right? It's just not by feeling, oh, I think that my objective has been achieved. It has to be some evidence to show that your objectives have been achieved. This is what we call measurable. And achievable, because again, it has to be realistic, right? So definitely, if you have unlimited resources, you can do something fantastic, right? Even you waste your money, you don't care because you have a lot of money. But normally you will have some other constraint, right? For instance, time constraint, budget constraint, and many other things. So with all these constraints, right, you may have also skill constraint. So with all these constraints, you have to make your objectives to be realistic, right, achievable, right, and relevant. Of course, the problems that you are, the objectives should be relevant to the problems that you want to solve, because you just describe a problem, right? You just describe a problem. So whether your objectives are relevant to these problem statements and time bound, because you need to have a deadline. Normally for a project, normally it's 6 months to 1 year. The time bound would be within the project period. But you may want to have more specific time bound for each objective. It is okay. It is also okay. It really depends on how you want to plan for your projects, right? So this SMART objective, you may not, sometimes you may not be able to fulfill all, but you should try your best to have to actually meet the requirement of these SMART rules, right? So for instance, just now we have this dengue fever, right? So now suppose that our problem is that preventing dengue fever from spreading. So again, preventing dengue fever from spreading, just now we already highlighted that we have 3 possible solutions, right? The first solution is that you apply this insecticide fogging, right, to reduce the number of adults mosquitoes. So you can also educate the residents, right, to drain out all the stagnant waters in the containers and so on, right? You can also have that approach, right? You can also have this Wolbachia program, some things like Wolbachia program, to inject some bacteria inside the adult mosquitoes so that the offspring, when they produce an offspring, all carry the Wolbachia bacteria, so that you can restrict the activeness of these dengue virus inside these mosquitoes. So suppose that you have this problem already. Now you say, okay, Wolbachia project is too much. I mean, too high level for me to approach. I want to focus more on, for instance, now you want to, maybe this is your school assignment that your teachers want you to run a campaign, you know, or run a project in order to prevent dengue fevers from spreading, right? So then you need to define the objectives, right? For instance, these are the objectives. For instance, the first objective could be to raise awareness among local residents, with at least 50% showing good understanding about the importance of dengue prevention activities within 4 months. So you can see that it is specific, right? It's measurable as well, because you have this, you define this, at least 50% of the residents start to be aware of this, the importance of these dengue virus prevention activities. The dengue prevention activities can include like insecticide fogging, can also include the educations, right? So here the objective, you may not need to come to the approaches yet, right? The approach can come later, but the things that you want to achieve, this is what you want to achieve: raise the awareness among the local residents, right? At least 50%. This is measurable, right? You can measure, right, whether the awareness has been improved, right? You can measure. Okay, it is achievable because 4 months, then you can have a lot of activities, right? It is relevant because for this objective, it is relevant to the problem that you are facing. And time bound, within 4 months, you have to do this. So normally time bound, actually, if you don't specify it, it will be the whole project period, right? It is fine. If you don't want to mention specifically how long it takes for you to achieve this objective, it is fine. It is fine as well. As long as you have this project's duration. Project duration will be the limitation, time limitations for you to carry out the project in order to achieve this objective. So this first objective. Second objective, of course, other than bringing the awareness, right? You want to reduce, right, mosquito breeding sites in targeted dengue hotspots by 30% within 6 months, right? Actually, the first one and second one, they are closely related, but the first one is more on the education, awareness promotion. But the second one will be focused on the actual reductions of mosquitoes breeding sites. You need to do some study. I mean, in order to achieve this objective, you need to do some study before and after, right? Before, right? how many breeding sites you have spotted. After, actually, you can see that it has been reduced, right? So this is again a smart objective because you can measure, you can it's specific, it's achievable, and relevant, and it's also time bound. The third one, lower reported dengue cases in the project area by 50%, 15% in the next 6 months compared to the previous period. Again, this is very specific. You want to lower the dengue cases, the reported dengue cases, right, in this particular area by 15%. Again, it is measurable, right? Sometimes you may have a question whether for measurable, whether it has to be numerical measurable, but it is not really necessary because sometimes we may not need to mention the percentage, right? But if you can mention, then that would be a promise that you want to achieve, right? If you are not that confident that you can achieve that high, you can make it lower. But if you don't want to put in any figure, then in your approach or in your outcome, expected outcome, it would be better for you to explain, right, how much you want to improve, how much awareness you want to raise, and so on and so forth, right? So these are some of the smart objectives, right, that you can draw from the problem that you are facing, right? You want to prevent dengue fever from spreading. Okay, so these are the smart objectives that you derive. Okay, you derive. Okay, for this objective, again, remember, objective actually connects your problem to your action plan, to your solution, right? So each objective, you need to carry out some activities. You need to have some solutions in order to achieve these objectives, right? For instance, for objective 1, right, you want to raise the awareness among local residents, right, with at least 50% showing good understanding about the importance of dengue prevention activities within 4 months. So what you need to do, right? You need to have a solution and the steps, right? So this is what we call planning. What is your plan, right? For instance, you want to design some simple and clear posters, infographics, or video in local language. Then you want to distribute these, right, everywhere in this residential area so that when people pass by, right, when they see these, or you even can send to their contact or email or whatsoever, so that they are aware of this campaign, right? So you need to make the message accessible and relatable to all the residents in this particular area. So you can see that actually I start to type this objective to some action, right? This is an action already, come to the action already, okay? So you can also organize some short talks or exhibitions in schools, local halls, and public spaces, right? Again, these are some of other activities that you can do in order to raise the awareness, right? This is to help you reach out a wider audience with direct explanations why it is important, right, to prevent dengue virus. You can also have some demonstration, right? Demonstrate to the residents what they should do, right? So it can be in video form, it can be through some program or talks and so on and so forth, right? You can distribute flyers, social media contents with a QR code survey in order to understand their response. You can conduct a simple quiz survey before and after in order to check whether you have achieved your objective. So for all these are the actionable plan already. So you can see that from problem, right? We have a high level problem. Okay, we can then start to be more specific. With more specific, we can start to derive the objective. From the objective, we can start to plan, right? To work out the planning in order to achieve this objective. Okay, so definitely for all these actions, there must be some budget allocation, there must be some time allocations or human resource allocation in order to achieve this, right? So this will also tie to the limitation or the constraint of your project. If this is school projects, maybe you want to look for volunteers from your classmates, right, to help to promote this one, right? If this is the projects from the councils or from the urban plannings from the governments, then you may have more resources to do these sort of things. So based on different resources, you can have the skill, different skills of these activities. But the activities and the plan has to be actionable, So the second objective, for instance, you want to reduce mosquito breeding sites in targeted dengue hotspot by 30% within 6 months. Again, these are objective, right? Again, this objective actually ultimately you want to resolve the problem that you have, that is to prevent the dengue virus from spreading. So in order to achieve this objective, you can have further planning. For instance, first of all, you need to identify and inspect the key areas where waters collects, right? So this objective is different from the first objective. First objective is more for the education, or you try to convey the message. But the second is involved in these spot inspections. You need to investigate, right? Where are the spots whereby the waters could accumulated, and then the mosquitoes can breed their eggs and larvae inside. So the actions will be different. In order to achieve this objective, the actions will be different, right? So of course, you can also mobilize the community cleanup drives. You leverage the efforts from the entire community. Like you can organize some gotong royong events, right? In order for everyone to check their own household areas, and so on and so forth, right? So you can also through some educations to teach the residents how to do this, okay? And so on. So in order to achieve this objective, again, you can have different planning solutions in order to achieve the objective number 2, okay? Same thing for objective number 3, right? You want to lower down the reported dengue cases in the project area by 15% in the next 6 months, right? Compared to the previous period. Of course, you need to. This is actually some efforts together with the objective 1 and objective 2. So other than this, you may want to, again, other than the education, you want to schedule the fogging, the insecticide fogging in the identified spot areas. You may want to discuss with the local clinical settings and to arrange some fogging and so on. If you identify, you also need to encourage the residents, right? If they are infected by dengue fever, it would be better for them to seek help from the hospital and report the case, so that the government can do something, right? So these are all possible actions that you can do in order to achieve objective 3. So is that okay? So you can see the logical sequence is that you have a problem already, more specific problems, right? After you do the analysis, then you start to derive your objective. Once you derive your objective, you can come up with the actions in order to achieve the objective. Okay, no question, okay. So just now you can see that the objectives that I show you come with some numeric measurable objectives, but sometimes it might not be necessary, because sometimes you can't promise too much, right? For instance, you say you want to achieve 50% of awareness. That could be a very high level of achievement, right? Because that number actually may not be that easy to achieve. So if you are not confident, then that's fine, but at least it has to be measurable. For instance, you can say that we want to increase sales by 20% within 6 months, right? That is measurable, because quantitative objective is always measurable because there's a number. There's number for you to achieve. But sometimes you may not want to have quantitative measurable objectives, but rather you want to have qualitative. You want to talk about something for the improvement, right? Raise the awareness and so on, so on. But you might not be able to provide the exact figures, how much you want to improve. Then that's fine. But at least it has to be measurable. Measurable meaning that you can have the evidence to show that it has been achieved. So evidence could be the survey, could be the some observable evidence. That means you don't have the product and you create the product already. You can see the product. Actually, that is the evidence that you already created the products. So when we say measurable, it has to be able to track, observed, right? It has to be something tangible. It has to be something tangible, meaning that you can actually have the evidence to show that this objective has been achieved. Okay. So for instance, here I gave an example. For instance, you want to improve the customer satisfactions as demonstrated by positive feedback in surveys. So you may not want to specify how much percentage it is, but at least this is something that you can measure, observe by using the survey or feedback. Okay. Or you want to reduce the complaint, right? You can also observe, right? Last time, how many complaints you have received? I mean, last month. So this month, how much it has been reduced, right? So this can also be measured, right? In short, here are some other examples about the measurable objectives. So for instance, you want to increase the number of residents attending dengue awareness session by 30% within 4 months. So this is definitely measurable and relevant, specific, achievable, and time-bound. But the thing is that 30%, you may not know whether you can achieve 30%, but you can also convert it into qualitative objective. For instance, you want to achieve positive feedback from residents attending dengue awareness sessions. Measure through post-session surveys within 4 months. So in other words, that means that you don't know how much percentage of the residents will attend this, but whoever attend this, they will have positive feedback on this campaign, right? So achieve positive feedback, right? Positive feedback is something that you can measure, you can observe, can be the evidence in order for this objective to measure whether this objective has been achieved or not, right? Okay. So this is a summary, right? Measurer must have clear criteria to track the progress or success, right? Which can be numeric or qualitative. In other words, it can be quantitative, related to numbers. You want to give some numbers, or it can be by description, right? When we say qualitative, meaning that it is by description, okay? So quantitative, you use numbers, percentages, counts, deadlines, and so on, right? Qualitative, you use some observable outcomes, documented feedback, ratings, participations, or quality indicators, okay? Because I understand that sometimes when you work out the proposal, it will be a bit difficult for you to give the numbers that you want to achieve. It is sometimes because when we are writing the proposal, it is in the beginning stage of the projects. So sometimes it's very difficult for you to predict in terms of the numerical outcome. Okay, but at least you need to have something that is observable, right? So just now I also mentioned that your project, right? The quality of your project actually are constrained by 3 major factors, right? First of all, scope. How large is the scope? For instance, you want to promote this dengue fever awareness, right? In a kampong, right? Then the scope will be only a kampong. If this is for the whole state, that involves many kampongs, the scope is totally different. Or if it is a whole country, or it is the whole region, the scope is totally different. When the scope is different, the budgets and the time allocated to this project has to be changed accordingly, because that will affect the entire scope, right? So when you work out the project, you have to really be clear that what is your scope, right? If it is only for one residential area, just one village, then the scope, you should be focused more on that scope, because the problems that the villagers or residents encounter may be different from the people in other states, right? So the scope also define the problem, right? So define the problem. So you have to be clear that within this scope, what is the problem? For instance, just now we mentioned this, we discussed this dengue virus fever prevention, right? We have we use the insect insecticide fogging. We use the education, all right? So this scope actually within just small region, right? But if you want to have this Wolbachia, that involves a lot of national policies already, because the health ministry will have to look into whether this will bring other side effect or not. So that is actually totally different scope already, right? So the scope actually determines the problems, right? So you have to be clear about the scope of your projects. So with the scope, specific scope, then you know how much budget you need, how much resources you need to put in, right? So definitely the more resources that you have, you can have a better quality of the projects, right? Because, for instance, if you have a lot of budgets, then you can hire many people to work for you for the projects, right? But if you have limited budgets, then actually within the resources, you need to see how you can solve the problem in order to achieve the objective. So time is also another constraint, right? Time, how much time you have, right? How much time you have in, and if longer time, of course, the longer time, the approach could be totally different, right? So these are the three factors that will affect the entire quality of your projects. Okay, so how you can establish your project's priorities, right? So you should look at whether which one is the more critical criterion to you, right? Whether you want to have a very high quality, you don't care that much about the budget, so you cannot care that much about the time, but you want the outcome to be very high quality, then the high quality will be your priority, right? But for instance, if you have constraint, I mean, you have limited budget, you have limited time. So within this limited time and budgets, you try to push as much as possible for the achievable outcome. But within it should be also understandable that if with the limited budget and limited time, so the scope actually, or the scope cannot be too large, right? And the performance, for instance, if you only have limited budget and limited time, maybe you want to achieve 20% of the improvement, okay? But if you have more budget and more time, you may want to achieve 50% of the improvement. So it really affects the entire scope. So in general, the priorities can be presented into this table, right? You have time, performance, and cost. You have constraint, enhance, and a constraint meaning that something that you cannot give in, right? Something that is really, really you want, right? Or you cannot actually afford to change this. Enhance meaning that it is a secondary priorities, and accept meaning that this priority actually is more flexible. Okay, so we can draw this so that you can understand better. So how is the nature of your project? Okay, so next thing that I want to highlight is that for all the things that you present in your reports, it has to be based on facts, right? It has to be based on facts. It's not just by imagination, especially if you're using AI, right? We have this hallucination, meaning that AI sometimes for ChatGPT or for other AIs, they will have to give you some answers. Even they don't know. They may give you some things that based on their imagination, right? They just simply give you something. But these arguments from AI, you have to be careful. You really, really need to be careful because it could be because of their hallucinations, not because of the facts. When you want to work out a proposal, work out a project, you need the facts or evidence to support your idea, right? It's not just by whatever AI say to you. For instance, for the hackathon that we are going to have, all right, definitely you can use AI, right? You can use ChatGPT or and many other tools in order for you to collect information, compile information, right? Or even generate ideas. But the thing is that whatever AI or ChatGPT say, you have to verify whether it is facts or not. So that's why it is very important for you to cite references. For instance, you collect more information from Ministry of Health, from Ministry of Agriculture, and so on and so forth, right? These are all the facts and evidence, right? We have concrete, concrete sources in order to show that these are all valid facts and evidence. So that's why in a report, it is very important for you to cite the references, right? Cite the references. This is to give, first of all, this will give credits to the original author or source. It means that you have, for instance, you find out certain percentage or this kind of soil more suitable for this kind of plants, right? Because of what they are, because they contain the nutrients that this kind of plants need. Okay, it is not based on your imagination. It has to be based on some source, credible source, right? So that you can draw this conclusion. So you need to give the credits to these original authors or source, right? The secondly, of course, you need to show the evidence and the facts that support your idea or the proposal, right? You can also help readers because whatever you write in your report could be in a summary form. You summarize a lot of information or contents into a short paragraph. Your readers may want to know more. Your readers may want to know more about what original source provide. Then they can actually refer to the sources. Then they can read the sources to learn more about this one. And so this is also one of the reasons you need to cite. And eventually, this is also important. You want to avoid plagiarism. Because if you don't cite, anything that you don't cite, so the readers may presume that this is your own idea, your own argument. So if this idea or argument actually from another person, you just copy everything and put it in your reports, pretending that this is yours, then this is what we call plagiarism. Plagiarism is a very serious offense in academic line, or not only academic line, in many areas, even in industry. So if you just copy from others, right, that could be also a serious offense, right? So in order to avoid plagiarism, you need to show the sources. That means that I refer to that particular source. Now I give the credits. This is not my own argument. This is not my own idea, but I will use this idea and argument in order to support my idea and argument. Okay, so this is to avoid the plagiarism, right? So when do you need to cite, right? When you use some facts, statistics, or data from websites, books, or articles, right? Especially those credible sources, right? Then you have to cite. But somehow don't cite Wikipedia, right? Because Wikipedia may not be reliable. So people can just simply add in more information to Wikipedia. Normally, Wikipedia will have another list of sources. You can refer to those sources to read the contents, right? So, well, secondly, if you want to quote, someone have said something, you want to quote, okay, what did he say, right? In order to, as the support of your argument, then you can actually, you should actually cite. Or you just adapting or summarizing someone's ideas, right? Then you should cite, right? These are the possible things that you need to cite in your report in order to give credit to others, in order to support your ideas, in order to help readers to find more information, and in order to prevent plagiarism. Okay. Okay, there are different style of citation, right? Here I want to introduce you. There are two major categories, right? The first one is what we call author date style. Author date style actually apply to this APA citation and also Harvard citation style. APA stands for American Psychological Association, if I'm not mistaken. Harvard, you know Harvard, right? So in the author date citation in-text, normally for the citation, right, there are two parts. The first part is that inside the content of your reports. If the idea is from someone else, you need to put a bracket. I mean, in terms of author date, right, you need to put a bracket. Who is the author of this particular idea? And when the authors actually propose this idea, right? So for instance, dengue is a serious public health issue in Malaysia. This is by Ministry of Health in 2023, right? Okay, so this is the in-text citation. So another example, according to Go and Dan, right? Go and Dan, you already mentioned the name of the authors. Then you need to put the date, right? Is in 2022. They published a papers highlighting that community awareness plays a key role in dengue prevention. Okay. The third one, the use of fogging alone is not sufficient to eradicate mosquitoes, right? This is by WHO in 2021. So this is inside the text. You need to highlight that this idea, when you mention the ideas or you mention the data, you need to highlight where you get this from, right? So then at the end of your document or your reports, you need to provide the reference list so that when people look at this Ministry of Health 2023, okay, what does it mean? Then you can come to this reference list. Oh, Ministry of Health actually in this Malaysia National Dengue Reports 2023, they highlight this. Okay. And the Go and Dan, right? They highlight, they mention that community awareness not enough. In one of their paper, right? Community-based dengue prevention strategies. And WHO, the World Health Organization, right? They actually have this site to highlight that fogging alone is not sufficient, right? So all the citation styles contains two parts. The first part is in-text citations. And the last part at the end of your reports or your paper or your documents, you need to give a reference list, right? To have more details about all these references. Okay, here I want to have a disclaimer that all these are fictitious citation. I mean, these are all may not be the real documents, all right? This is only for demonstration purpose to show you how to do the citation and how you put this reference list. So these APA citation styles, you need to mention the authors and also date in the in-text citation. In the reference list, you need to provide more details, right? And in the reference list, you need to organize the references based on their alphabet orders, right? So this is the author date citation style. Another citation style called numeric citation. This is actually used by IEEE or Vancouver or ACM. ACM also using the numeric citation. So the difference from the author date citation is that the in-text citation, we only use numbers, right? For instance, dengue cases have increased significantly in recent years. So this is not what you say. This is from somebody else, right? You give a number 1, right? A square bracket and then 1. And then community involvement has proven effective in reducing breeding sites. Okay, this is from another citation. You give a number 2. And fogging reduces the adult mosquitoes populations, but must be combined with other strategy. Okay, this is the third references. You put a number 3. So in the reference list, you need to indicate that 1, 2, 3, which documents or which papers they are referring to, respectively, right? For 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So this is numerical style. The differences between the numerical styles is that numerical styles, right, you don't show the author's name and date in the in-text citation, right? So there are pros and cons of this. The cons, of course, you did not show enough respect to the authors because in the author date citation, people, when they read it, then they immediately know that these ideas are from which authors, from whom. But for numerical, you don't know the authors until you refer to the reference list. Only then you know who are the authors. However, the pros is that it is more convenient for the readers to read. For instance, imagine that you are reading a paragraph. This strategies was first proposed by, then you start to name the authors, by Gore, Dan, Liew, and Michael in 2000. So actually, when you are reading the paragraphs, you need to read the long sequence of names, right? Before you can continue to the next sentence. So somehow it creates some reading burden to the readers. Unlike the numeric style, right? Numeric style is just a number. You can just skip the number easily, right? If you want to know more about the authors, then you come to the reference list. So different citations styles may be required in different organizations or even different institutions, or even in the same institution, different reports. For instance, the reports for management principles and the reports for these numerical methods, they may use totally different citation styles. But this is just to give you some ideas that if you want to cite the sources of some of the papers, you may want to adopt one of these citation styles, just one. You need to make it consistent for the whole report. If you choose author date citation style, then for the whole reports, you need to use author date. If you use numeric style, then again, you have to use numeric citation style for the whole report. Is that okay? Okay. So again, I would like to highlight again, plagiarism is actually a serious offense. I can even say this is a crime, right? In academic life or in many areas, whereby if you just copy others' ideas without giving credits to them, this is equivalent to theft, because you steal the ideas from others, right? So you pretend that this is your own ideas. So this is a very serious offense. Oh, this come to the last slides of my workshop. I mean my workshop. Again, Go Without. This is by Antonio D. Sanz Azabiro. Do you know who is this? Okay, I think this is a famous authors. These are French authors. You know Little Prince, right? You know Little Prince, 小王子. This is the authors of 小王子. Okay. Okay. He used to say that a goal without a plan is just a wish, right? If you don't have a plan, right, it is just a wish, right? So in order to turn your goal into some actionable steps, you need to have a plan, right? You need to formulate the problems, and then you need to formulate objectives. And from the objectives, you need to do the planning in order to achieve the objectives, right? So remember, this effective planning is the bridge between the aspirations and the achievement, right? So I think I finished all the contents. I'm not sure whether I have gone too fast, and or you don't have any questions, or I open to you. If you have any questions, you can ask your questions in Mandarin or in English. Totally fine with me. So if you ask in Mandarin, I will answer you in Mandarin. If you ask me the questions in English, I will answer you in English. So any questions? No questions. Good. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, sure. I can share the slides. I will share the slides with the organizer, and later organizer can distribute the slides to you. No problem. No problem. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, if you don't have any other questions, I will stop sharing. I will return this to the organizer. 世谋交易给你了。
OK，院长，我们既然大家没有什么疑问，我们要不要讲一下那个 Hackathon 的一些题目的东西啊？
可以啊，就看看有什么问题。
好，看一下啊，
嗯
呃来看一下档案啊。刚刚对啊，将有要参与的同学可以直接看这个档案，等下修一下 slide。嗯，screen。OK，看得到我的画面吗？
可以看
可以啊
得到。嗯
，OK。院长，我们这样好了，就是因
嗯
为有同学陆续会教他们的那个 hackathon 嘛的
嗯
资料，然后也会有一些老师正在询问说要教的内容，
嗯
呃，在我们在等着同学问今天的问题之前，我们还是go through 一下这个题目，这
嗯，
样 OK 吗？
可以啊，可以啊，可以啊，
院长我帮你 go through 那个 slide，然后
可以。
OK 好。
这个关于这个黑客，那我说中文呢，还是
都可以。
我用中文好了，可以
好
用中文好了。
，OK，
那这个 hackathon 其实我们去年就办了一次 hackathon。那我们的 hackathon 主要的目的呢，就是现在我们知道我们有很多那个 AI 的 tools，就是 AI 像 ChatGPT、Gemini、Cloudy、DeepSeek，right？我们有很多很多这种不同的 AI 的工具，right？而且都是免费的。当然你们要付费，其实它的那个 performance 会更好。但是我们有了这些工具之后，它可以怎样帮助我们？它是可以怎样帮助我们？比如有一些课题，我们去年就是主要是股票分析嘛，就是 我们怎样去用这个 AI 这些工具来帮助我们做一些基本面的分析。OK，假如我们有一定的那个objectives，我们要达至某一些目标，我们要怎样去分析？那今年呢，我们希望说，我们所有的这些 hackathon，它最后解决的问题都跟我们的民生，就是跟 SDG 有关的那个Sustainable Development Goal，就是跟我们的那个联合国提出来的这个可持续发展的一个目标有关。那其实农业其实也是一个很大的目标，就是很多时候我们可能做一个行外人，我们假如说，哎，我们想要开始去做一些农业，但是我们不知道怎么下手。那即使是从最简单的一个计划的阶段，我们可能不知道怎么下手。那现在要是我们有这些 AI 的工具的话，我们是不是可以通过这些 AI 的工具，给我们一些建议，或者是帮我们寻找一些资料，整合整理一些资料，然后呢，从这些资料里面呢，我们就可以大概有一些想法，我们应该要怎样投资在我们的，假如我们有一笔钱了，怎么投资在这个农业方面？那所以今年的题目，去年是股票投资，今年就是农业投资。当然，我们希望说这个农业投资的话，我们是希望不是只是说农业投资，还必须跟科技有一些关系啊。所以这个是我们当时候在设计这个题目的时候的一些想法。那我们当然也不要把它弄得太广阔，因为你说农业的话，其实农业可以在不同的地方就有不同的农作物，它可能适合不同的农作、不同的气候。那我们就把那个范围缩小到马来西亚。那马来西亚的话，其实在马来西亚其实也很大，所以我们就把它缩小。比如说，这个金马伦高原，或者是笨珍是柔佛州嘛，然后还有这个那时候巴当本尊他已经改名字了是吧？那个谁说已经改名字了？我们还是用回旧名字，这个可能是我们一下子没有考虑到那个名字已经
对，
改。
稍后会
不
改。
过不过没有关系，就是它主要就是说，我们假设我们有一笔钱，我们又选定了那为什么选定这三个地区呢？可能你那边有朋友啊，我们就不谈背后的原因了，就主要是通过一个学长是很有这个农耕的经验的，所以他觉得说我们可以在这三个地区来选，然后这三个地区的话，它就可以提供一些不同的条件，生长的条件，可能适合不同的农作物。那当然就是我们要有一个范围了，就是你有一定的 budget，你不能够说我有一个亿啊，或者所以我们定在一千万，你大概有1000万的马币。那你1000万的马币呢，你要开始去投资在这三个地方。那这三个地方的话，你当然就是要选择 OK，你在不同的地方可能要投资不同的这个不同的那个，你可能要买不同的地，不同的大小。所以你要评估说每一块地大概是多少钱，然后它假如是在这么大的钱，这么大块地的话，你投资那么下去的话，它最后可以生成多少的回酬，这些东西可能都是你必须要考虑，然后你用的是什么方法，都是你要考虑的。然后看到第二点就是你要选择什么作物，你要怎样去，就是为什么，就是有一些很重要的东西，就是你要说明你为什么要选这些作物。当你要选这些作物的话，它一定是适合这个环境生长。它适合这个环境，你当然你可以说它不适合这个环境生长的话，你要有一些温室，没有问题。但是温室你要考虑到你的温室下去的时候，你可能需要有一些经费是要去建立这些温室的。所以这要看你对那个成本，它最后的成本的效益是多少来做考虑。所以你必须要去因为这些东西，假如你丢去 AI，你问他的话，他一定会给你一些答案。但是你必须要去看这些答案到底对不对，你自己可能是要去找一些其他的网站或者其他的政府部门的一些网站，去看看这个 AI 给你的答案到底是对还是不对，或者是说它其实有没有考虑到一些东西。然后当你在种植的过程，你有一些成本， 你必须要考虑这些成本，成本包括了你要买怎样的种子，你要用怎样的肥料，然后你可能是要怎样的比如说你要杀菌啊，或者是你要就是有什么东西，就是有一些害虫啊，这些东西都是你必须要考虑在成本里面的。当然，你假如是用一些你可以用有机的，你说我要用有机的方法。当然有机的方法可能它的成本比较贵，但是可能它的收成比较好。这个是我们要交给这个参与的同学，你们自己去想象说，哎，你最后完成的目标是什么？这个目标不一定是说你赚最多钱，不一定是你赚最多钱，你可能有其他的一些目标是你要完成的，但是你必须要说明为什么你要有这样的目标。就好像我们刚提到的说，你有一个问题，你的问题的话是从哪里来？你要怎样解决这个问题？当然，你的问题可能说我的问题就是我要赚最多的钱，那当然是也可以是一个目标了，那没有问题，你可以有这样的目标没有问题但是你也可以说我要赚很多钱之余，我要保护环境，在保护环境可以可持续发展，这块地可以不断的耕种，而不是一次过了用完了之后，可能短期你可以赚最多的钱，可是长期来说不是一个很好的那个方法。所以这些东西都是你必须要去考虑到的，就是说你的目标是什么？你必须要订立一个目标。我的目标是要赚钱，我的目标是要可持续发展，我的目标是要跟当地的那个民生结合。就是你有什么目标，你最后因为那个目标那个问题，最后会跟你出来的那个解决方案会有很大的不同的影响。所以我们希望看到的就是说，不同的同学或者不同的参赛队伍，你们可能会有不同的想法，那在不同的想法会激发出怎样的一个火花？OK，当然，不管你的目标怎样都好，最终你必须要这块地是必须要可以维持可持续的，不是说你把1000万丢下去了之后，花完了之后你的目标达到了，跟生态环境很好，可是你没有办法生成任何的利润。当你没有办法生成利润的话，这个 project 就不能够持续下去。所以它的那个 business feasibility 就是它的商业上的一个考虑，跟它的这个金融上的一个计划也是非常重要的。就是你在不同的这个考虑不同的范围之下呢，你最后还是一定要有一个经济效应，因为我们的这个 SDG 其中一个就是我们要解决民生的问题，就是我们要怎样提高经济，所以经济效益会是其中一个，我不能说它是唯一，但是它是会是一个非常重要的一个考量可以 scroll down，scroll down
哦，OK，
是所以大概就是这样了，就是我们这个是整个前提下来，就是说这整个我们想要达到的一些目标，然后有很多东西是你们自己要放进去的，自己考虑的，可以下来了。所以当你在做这个的时候，你就必须要就是我们这边有一些规定了，就是你的那个 body 就是你的主要的内容不可以超过15页，但是这个内容不包括了 cover page，不包括了一些你的主要是这个 report 这个report 你要说你怎么去看这个问题，你怎么去定义你的问题，你要解决的问题是什么？你怎样用一些方法，就是你用 AI，你丢进去 AI 生成之后，AI 出来的那个版本有什么问题？就因为我们要把跟 AI 跟那个 SDG 结合在一起，你们必须要用 AI 那个 tool，OK，用 AI 的 tool，然后生成出来，你们必须要去找出这个 AI 生成出来的 tool 有什么问题。因为我们一直有一个想法，就是未来 AI 还是没有办法取代人类的，因为 AI 它可以考虑的东西是很多它以前就是通过网络或者是通过资料学习的东西，但是它很多东西还是必须要人的 input，人的那个输入才能够更好的找到一个答案。那我们预想未来的一个最好的情况就是所谓的人机结合，人机合一，而不是天人合一，是人机合一，人跟机器怎样合起来做到一个目的。所以有些东西就是 就是你要 AI 帮你的时候，你必须要通过人去思考 AI 出来的答案是不是可以达到你要的目的，或者是它里面的考虑是不是欠缺了一些东西，你必须要协助这个 AI 去找另外一些资料给这个 AI，让它从另外一个不同的角度去看这个问题，让这个答案更完整。所以你必须要提出说，哎，当你解决问题的时候，你是用怎样的考虑？你到底比如说你要考虑的是生态结合，那你就要把生态结合的一些资料，甚至你可能会去官网那边找一些资料，让 AI 去学习这些东西，然后让它生成出来的答案呢，会包含这些考量在里面可以再下去。
好，
啊，然后就是你有 introductions，然后这些当然就是你用什么 tool 啦，你比如你用 Gemini，你是用什么？我们这边去年我们是讲是 large language model 了，但是 large language model 比较有局限性，我们今年是想说把它推广变成 generative AI，因为 generative AI 还包括你可以生成图片，可以生成图像，很多其他的不同的东西，不只限制于这个只语言 text 包在上面。其实现在真的从去年到今年，整个这个 generative AI 已经进展到另外一个层次了，所以现在有更多的那个工具可以让你们使用。OK，所以就是你们要 present 刚开始出来，然后你们怎样去 fine tuning，你怎样去优化这个 AI 出来的这个结果，然后你们给了 AI 更多的资料，你们给了 AI 更多的什么资料，你们必须要有，还是一样，这些资料是从哪里来的话，你最好是有一个 citation 去 cite 说，哎，我们增加了这些资料，为什么我觉得这些资料很重要？它是从哪里来的？最好你是有 citation 来。就是你有那个 citation 来支持你的这些计划，OK，然后最后当然 AI 可能最后生成出来，你可能在人工上面你还是需要做一些 final 的 touch up，就是怎样去做最后的一个整合，然后最后呃我们还是希望看到人在这个份报告里面，它是有一定的主导地位。AI 是帮助你整合资料、寻找资料，或者甚至给你一些 idea，但是最后是人是怎样主导这些东西。所以你们必须要强调，就是强调人，你们的组员在这方面做了一些什么东西。然后 final solution 就是最后那个合理性，就是最后的结果出来，我们当然会看它的合理性，它到底这个东西还有一个东西很重要，就是我们要 integrate 那个 IoT 跟 robotics。你们第一个 workshop 就是学了那个 microbits 嘛，microbits 是一个很小的，我们不需要你去 demo 整个大的东西，但是 microbits 可以让你们开始去接触一些 hardware，而且 microbits 它不太难，它不像一些它不是很高深的这个数学或者什么东西，它就是一些逻辑的问题而已。那我们是希望说你的 proposal 里面是包括了这个一些 IoT，就是物联网，还有一些 robotics，一些机器人的一些原因。当然，最后我们不会要求你做出来，因为是不可能的，因为你不可能在这么短的时间，中学生可以做出他最后的成果。但是当你们被 shortlist 去决赛的时候呢，我们是希望看到你们可以做出一些小小的东西，去去 demonstrate 那个 idea，就是去把你们的想法呈现出来，你们的那个一些有趣的想法呈现出来。所以这个大概就是一个初赛的一个报告的一个要求了。OK，然后你们当然要说，哎，这整个过程里面你们学到了什么东西啊？等等。然后这边这些 additional guidelines 这些 Appendix A、B 这些都不是在15页的那个要求，15页的要求就是那个 report 的那个内容。然后大概就是这样。然后这个是然后你们就是你交了报告之后，我们会选一些学生做网上的这个报告。那这个网上的报告，你大概会有15分钟去报告你的想法，你的 report 是怎样的，你们到底要用怎么样的方法解决这样的问题等等。 然后有一个 Q&A，然后就问问题，然后最后呢，我们就会哦，你要提交这些东西，这些规矩提交可能之后再由校会提醒大家。然后这些是我们评分的标准啊，大概评分的标准大概是40分左右，OK。然后我们会选出，应该是选出24队对吗？哎，12队哦，对不起，十
对，
二队，
十二队，
十二队到最后的那个线下的那个决赛。那线下的决赛会跟我们的这个我们的那个编程比赛啊、放在同一个时间了，应该提早一天是吗？提早一天还是放在同一天
对，19号晚上，
提早一天，OK。
对，嗯，
OK，所以这个就大概是我们大概的一个，所以这个线下报告你们必须要有一个 demonstration，因为我们有一个 demonstration 的分数，就是我们不要你们只是写，你们最好是有一些实际操作，这也是我们今年的一个突破了，是希望说我们慢慢的会把一些用手操作的东西慢慢引进来，就是你要有一个很好的 idea，而且你要知道怎么动手去做它。就
呃
就慢慢就是会把这些东西慢慢引进来有什么问题吗？还是世谋你有东西要补充吗？
呃，差不多是这样子。我们的题目，等一下啊，同学，这刚才讲的内容呢，都可以在我们的官网那边 download 得到了。可以看一下啊，同学有什么问题吗？哦，OK。好，如果没有，我们先谢谢院长早上
谢谢谢谢。
workshop 的 part。那我们进入到 Hackathon 的 launching，因为我们已经上完了3场的那个工作坊嘛。那相信同学已经知道说，该院长也稍微讲一下今年的题目。那同学也知道说那个题目的内容跟我们 focus 的部分。那现在进入到我开一下我的 slide 哦。嗯，好，你改变吧。呃呃，等一下啊，看一下我的 slide。OK，那我们进入到我们的 Hackathon 的 launching 虽然我们已经开始这个活动一段时间了，但是基于要比较正式的，也有一个新闻稿。那我们就进入今天的 Hackathon 的 launching。那为什么会有 Hackathon？是像刚才院长讲了哦，我们在去年的时候，我们办了第4届的城市设计竞赛嘛。那么希望说，同学来实际解决一些现实生活的问题。那它又是 SDG 的问题。那去年的话，我们总共有8队的队伍参与我们的竞赛。那最后 shortlist 成5队。那所有的程序一样，就是经过一个递交报告，然后线上的 presentation，最后挑出5队的队伍参与我们的实体的presentation。 那去年的2024年呢，我们是在台大的会所办我们的 presentation，那就有我们的院长、我们的张庭忠学长，还有会长，还有几位评审来帮我们做评审。那所有参与同学就类似来作为他们的报告，那顺便答询一下，哎，评审的提问。那当然，像刚才院长讲的一样，我们的去年的题目是一个投资的一个选择，那是从我们的题目里面选的。这个部分的话，我就不细讲了。那今年的话，刚好我们的城市设计竞赛截至到今天早上为止，已经有54个学校，那分别来自4个国家，那总共有大概接近500多位的参赛者，这是参与城市设计竞赛啊。当然，这些参与的里面有一些是重复参与 Hackathon 的同学。那刚才的黑客登的题目已经由我们的院长这里说明了。那之后我会把这段单独剪出来，就是让没有来参与今天的同学可以重复去听一下今年的题目预期要达成的。但是我们最终还是一样以我们的那个PDF 的文件为主。大家详细要知道的话，就以看那个我们的 Hackathon 的 PDF 的 requirement 为主。那这里的话有一些详细的 schedule，分别是所有刚才讲的 information 都可以在我们的官网得到，也就是 nSSPC.io。那上一次6月8号、6月14号、6月15号的3场的工作坊，全部的 recording 包括 slide 都会可以在我们的官网得到。当然，这里有几个几个事项要提醒同学的。第一个是 proposal 的 submission 的 deadline，就是这个月的6月28号。6月28号的晚上11点19分59秒，我就会截止。也就是说，这个时间过后，你的系统是上传不到你的 Hackathon 的资料了。那详细上传方法，我们的官网都会写。那第二个是 Hackathon 的 preliminary round 会是 online presentation，会是在7月19号。也就是说，我们从这个大家交的资本的 shortlist 会 shortlist 成一定的队伍，那有个线上的报告，报告完过后，我们会在几天里面筛选出12队的队伍晋级到我们的决赛。那晋级到决赛，决赛的时间是9月19号。这段期间呢，队伍会被安排至少有一位的来自拉曼大学的团队的老师协助大家，就是一起协同合作，在我们的 final report 的 preparation，就是如何优化你的期末的报告，那让大家在实做 IoT 或者一些决赛的报告的时候可以更加优化。那最终的话，这些以上的 final 的之前都是 online 的。那除了在 Grand Final 的是实体，也就是9月19号，地点会是在芙蓉中华中学。我看一下啊，线上有哦，那这个是 schedule。同学如果有疑问的话，也可以在上面询问的，或者在 WhatsApp 的群组询问。那接下来的话，就是我们这个 Hackathon 的 launching，我们邀请我们的会长帮我们说几句话，谢谢。对啊，我这边有啊，这边有啊。诶，我要怎么开声音？诶，看到吗？嘿，
刘院长，拉曼大学的刘少瑜院长，那各位老师、各位同学，那非常欢迎你们来参加这个第2次的黑客松比赛。那我要代表台大马来西亚校友会感谢拉曼大学团队再次鼎力相助，还有我们的张庭忠学长那促成这次黑客松比赛顺利展开。那我要谢谢在座的线上的老师的鼓励和协助同学们来参加这个比赛。那刚才诚如我们去年我们的秘书有解释到，就是去年我们有实验这个题目是以金融为主的那个安德在联合国 SDG 底下的一些题目作为比赛的一个题目。今年用这个智慧农业的题目呢，也是比较符合马来西亚的这个现实的这个环境。那大家所知道，黑客松比赛就是尝试对某些事件或问题在短时间内提出有效的解决方案。那原来的比赛都是一些给大学生或者是企业在职场上寻求问题解决方案或者发掘人才的一些手段了。那我们办这个比赛的目的也是希望同学日后在研究和工作上提早做一些练习。那比赛呢希望同学在这个比赛获得很好的一些的训练。那在以后呢，会在职场上还是在升学的管道上，会有比较好的一个基础。那我这边还有呼吁一下，同学们看还有其他同学有兴趣的话，也提早报名。我们的还是可以接受报名嘛So， 最后我希望校友会在大家支持下，能够一起为马来西亚的一些环境做一些努力。谢谢。
好，那谢谢我们的会长。那我们今天的工作坊，还有我们的soft launching，我们就到这里。同学如果有因为我们知道队伍目前不会太多，所以大家的机会非常的多，所以欢迎持续的报名，因为这个也锻炼大家已经会一些技术的部分，那试着解决一些现实的难题。OK。那再次感谢我们的院长，还有所有出席的老师跟同学，我们今天的工作坊就到这里。好，谢谢。
谢谢，再见。